And so there you go. That was half the call from Luke Wildman because U.S. Soccer edited the highlight. So 1-1, Bart, and that's where you join us, where we're 25 minutes in, and the U.S., after Matt Turner erred in his distribution, hitting it to Rafinha instead of an intended target, made it 1-0 after a pass to Rodrigo. So 1-1 at this point in 25th. We're walking through it this morning.
I mean, it was a great free kick.
Yes, it was.
In a long time since we've seen that from both Pulisic and the U.S. men's national team. And, I think this first half so far was a little bit what we had seen in the Colombia game, where a team was committed to playing a certain way and wasn't fully able to execute that at times. But you saw other times where they were able to find really good opportunities, settled a little bit for long shots from the top and outside of the box, but not the worst strategy ever. And it just was a little bit of patience to see Pulisic make kind of one of those meandering, slaloming runs through the defense. And, it took about 7 fouls to finally bring him down. And apparently we had VAR in this game because it also could have been a penalty kick. We can talk about that later.
We will.
Which I'm sure we will. But made the most of this opportunity.
So we're at 1-1, Jarrett, and that's where we end up playing things out right at the half. And then you look at another couple of chances from Brazil. USA hangs on. Then you get into the second half. And there was I will counter what happened in the second half with 2 moments. We talked about Matt Turner bad. Matt Turner good in the second half was a part of it. And also there was one stretch of possession, I want to say in the 58th minute, where we see Brazil using their pressure, trying to pin the U.S. in, and you see a lot of quick passing, calm and control to get out of a jam in the 58th minute to work their way out and up the right-hand side for a break with 30 minutes to go. So there were a couple of things to stare at in that final 30 minutes. No, that you didn't end up with another goal on the board, but there were moments where you're sitting there going, damn, this is a different club than the one we saw earlier in the week.
Yeah, both of these teams blue-balled their fan bases with missed chances in the second half. You had good saves. You also had straight-up misses where you're looking at somebody going, I know you can do better than that, and I don't know why you did not. Whatever. Move on with it. The more and more I watch this team, look, they're talented, U.S., they are missing a certain ballsiness to them. My saving grace here is that it has to be this has to be adding years, counting in dog years to Bruce Arena's life, watching a national team that just doesn't have the same sort of screw you mentality of being absolutely miserable to play against.
Yeah.
They're tough to deal with in a different way. But yeah, man, trying to figure out that Colombia game, there were many games and that was one of them. And then you transition to this, I liked this more, obviously. You got a little pragmatic in the second half. I liked it. But it shouldn't take getting absolutely hammer showered by Colombia for you to wake up. And I don't know if all of that in the chicken or the egg conversation we can have that we had here in Atlanta too. I don't know how much of that falls on Greg and how much of it falls on the players or how you split that blame. Because, yeah, man, there's times where I need you to be a little more combative.
Mm-hmm.
When you get tangled up with Brazil and they're ready to go and you're walking away from it. I'm glad you're not picking up dumb yellows, but there are moments where I want a little more combativeness and a little more ballsiness out of you, because that's what we've always known about the U.S. national team is that they are just nobody wants to play them. People would play them and win 3-0 and be like, none of us enjoyed that. It was like playing North Dakota State in football. You might win, or playing BYU. You might win, but you're going to be miserable the entire time doing it. And we don't really have that right now.
So, Bart, what do you think about the allegations of Jarrett of a lack of testicular fortitude from the men's national team?
Well, I think he's exactly right.
Expound.
I feel like the problem that we saw in both of these matches was it took getting kicked in the face with a hobnail boot to wake up. And how Greg Berhalter's been in charge since 2019. Most of these players have been around since at least 2021. At some point, you have to understand the level of intensity and commitment you have to bring every single game. And yes, Colombia approached that friendly as seriously as they would a World Cup final, it felt like. But your lack of understanding of the opponent's intensity, of the opponent's energy, is problematic. And again, the bounce back was good, but maybe we should get to the point where we don't need to, have a bounce back like that. And we it's not like this is new. We saw this literally happen in March at the Nations League, where you get kicked in the face early against Jamaica, and you spend the rest of your 90 minutes just trying to, find a goal, but there was no real urgency or intensity. It was just going through the motions, it felt like. And so, sorry to bring this parallel because I know we enjoy talking about this, but it felt very similar to how Atlanta United would often come into a game and go, yeah, we're really good at soccer. We're going to go outside and play. And then the other team is like, well, but our job today is to make everything for you as hard as possible.
Yeah.
And there is no ability to really react to that. So yes, it's good that you see the wake-up call, as you will, but I don't trust that's necessarily going to be something that you're going to carry over to Bolivia, because we've seen too many times with this team. They go up and down based on the opponent they're playing.
Go for it, Jarrett. I would be much more understanding if we saw a team that, let's say you lose that 5-1 Colombia game. Let's say you lost it because you just tried some ish. Like, hey, I want to see. Let's say you rolled in there and you were decided, I want to see what X, Y, and Z looks like. We want to try some weird things. What the hell? Why?
Go that way. Just YOLO the whole thing.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But it would be. I think I'd feel differently if you went into games like that. Like, hey, this is a friendly. I'm going to try some weird things. We're going to try some new weird things because it's a friendly and it doesn't hurt us to try them. But you rolled out most of what you usually would roll out. You just didn't have any urgency. Yeah. If you were losing those games because you were trying something new, that's a totally different conversation. I'd be fine with that. Mm-hmm. But you rolled out the usual, and you just rolled out there like a magic carp popping up on the shoreline.
And I think that is, for me, Jarrett, again, the other thing that was lost in both of these friendlies is, I mean, I guess in the Brazil game, you saw a little bit different attacking shape, but not really. Oh. In theory, it's not like it's that different. And you missed opportunities to try out possibly a 3-back system, considering that you're not going to have a Serginho Dest. So you may need to have, and Joe Scally was fine in these two matches, but, you may need to make adjustments there. You did see a little bit of a difference with Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, as kind of a double pivot in this game, which was nice to see. But there weren't a whole lot of experiments being done for a team that is missing a very important player and possibly missing a guy like Tyler Adams, who we don't know what his fitness level is going to be for the entirety of the tournament. So, to your point, you went out there trying to do exactly what you've been doing, and the first game was pretty much a complete waste. And your second game, you feel better about it, but it's still one of those situations where, okay, well, why weren't you able to get up for Colombia, but you're able to get up for Brazil? And this continues to happen with this team, where you're unable to get up for, a game against Jamaica, but you're able to get up for a game against Mexico. You're unable to get up for a game against El Salvador, but you're able to get up for the home match against, Panama. And that inconsistency is a problem, because you would expect this team 6 years into the Greg Berhalter tenure to be able to find that in them. And again, these are not new players. This is not a new manager. They've been together for a while. So it is, it's still one of those things where you can look at it and say, yeah, this is a good performance and result for Greg and the boys, but it still didn't feel like a window in which you were able to capitalize on the opportunities you were given.
Jarrett and Bart breaking down USMNT in Brazil. Go for it, Jarrett.
And to Alex's point, like, you can't please everyone. I agree. But you'll never get arguments from me with a friendly of trying new things. But if you're gonna
absolutely,
if you're gonna, that's the time to do it. Is I get live action for 90 minutes against somebody who's not usually in the locker room or on the field with me. By all means, go weird. Do a 3-back look. Change it up. And if you get blasted, okay, doesn't count. Whatever. Oh, we lost a friendly because we tried these things. I'm fine with that. But if you're gonna roll it out there, I want that. I want a little bit more of that. We can get up and fight for anybody kind of thing out of them, because it's that frustration for me that you've shown me in the past that you can, and you show me what you're capable of when you can. But what do we need to do to get that out of you consistently? So maybe that takes some internal reflection by them. I don't think Greg is that kind of guy. Obviously, he's not like Gattuso. He's not a sociopath. He's not going to eat someone's face off on the touchline and go insane. He's more reserved. But you got to find a way to get that fire out of them on a consistent basis. Because, yeah, it's going to be for all we know, they'll roll into Copa and play like demon dogs for those for the group games, and you'll be feeling good about it. But you need everybody to be up and on their toes the entire time.
So, Bart, let me ask you this, and let me ask the both of you, but let me start with Bart. And this is, I guess, a bit of a history question. When you have a back-to-backer situation or more than 2 matches in a short period of time, can you think of the last time that the United States men's national team was up for matches 1 and 2 instead of having an oh-ish moment and then having to turn it on in that second match? When did this sea change happen that you can think of? Is it all the way back to Bruce Arena when he was, normally his normal surly self, or when did this change happen?
Well, I think the problem is, oh boy, I don't want to get into this because I'm not blaming him I think the problem is a little bit Berhalter's mentality toward friendlies, and that he does see them as learning experiences and training exercises, which is fine because that is essentially what a friendly is.
Yeah.
However, I think he communicates a little too much we're going to try this and we're going to learn this, and these are the little goals within the game, and not communicating the importance of going out there and trying to win. And I get it, because as fans, we want to win these friendlies. As a coach, he's very understanding of the fact that the friendly record at the end of the day doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So long as you're prepared for international tournaments. But, I would argue that we saw decent performances in both friendlies in October, being Germany and Ghana. But again, my concern is, you're able to get up for Germany. Of course, yes, you lose. Germany's a good team, and you had some errors in that game. But for the most part, your team looked ready to play. But even then, there were times where they looked a little less urgent than they should. And that is what concerns me going into Copa America, where you have, no disrespect to them, a not very good Bolivia team as your first team that you're playing,
right.
A team that you're very comfortable and know very well, and Panama your second game. And your most important game, the game you absolutely have to get up to, is their Uruguay team that's incredibly talented and playing very well right now.
Combative as hell.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to put it, yeah. And so you can't sleepwalk the first 2 games. And this, again, as we talked about last time, this is a very this group is very easy to get out of. No disrespect to Panama or Bolivia. You take care of business, you beat them, both of them, you're at 6 points going into Uruguay, you're through to the next round.
Yeah.
And for me, the concern is that you will not start with the foot on the pedal the way that you need to.
So, Jarrett, I know that we all like to stare at Uruguay, and you're going, okay. But how much of a concern do you view a friendly when a team is, to the point that we've been discussing here, if your coach does not say going in, if he doesn't put up a big A billboard on the side of the road sitting there going, this is a friendly, we're going to be trying things, then things happen. And because you don't want to give your opponent any kind of ammunition to prepare for something or nothing, then in that first match, nothing happens, and you didn't put up the big A billboard sitting there going, we're going to try things, and we're just going to see what happens. And then you get up for the second one, and you end up with the result that you had with Brazil. I mean, how concerning is it for you that you have, even in a friendly situation, it takes time for the engine to turn over, and the first match ends up being something where it was like, okay, then I guess we need to turn it on for the second one. How concerning is that for you?
I guess for me, it's kind of a let's take a parallel to spring practice football, the spring game, because when you get a spring game in football, I don't know who all knows this. The playbook is as vanilla as humanly possible. You're not going to put anything on tape that you don't want to put on tape. You're gonna walk through the structure of what you're going to do in live games, which is fine. However, you don't want to be in a situation where like guys aren't hitting, like in the trenches, like not blocking, not finishing tackles, not finishing blocks. And it's kind of where I was with this series of friendlies, in that you went with structure, with what you know. I mean, I think to Alex's point, you went with structure to getting ready for this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But I need you to take these live fire drills like live fire drills. So, kind of get up for them, be up for them, because hey, these are two teams you could see later in the tournament.
Yes. Who
might try and rip your face off and beat you to death with it. And yeah, you should be able to get out of this group. Well, you're not playing Bolivia in La Paz. You should be okay there.
Yeah.
Thank God. Like, we all benefit from that, but you should be okay. Panama, tricky. Frankly, you should be beating Panama to death every chance you get, as basically making everyone pay for the fact that you missed out on the 2018 World Cup because Panama scored a goal that shouldn't have counted. Like, we can talk. I will go to my grave with this, that we can talk correctly all day long about how Bruce got it wrong in Trinidad and Tobago and the guys weren't up for it.
Yes.
Which extends back before Greg, with guys not getting up for it, and Christian Pulisic being like the only guy who was trying to drag them through that.
Correct.
But again, Panama went through on a goal that should not have counted, and you still should have gone to the World Cup. You still should have had an opportunity at the World Cup, and I firmly believe you should be beating Panama 4-0 every game for an extended period of time, as the righteous distributors of the universe's vengeance. But that being said, you got to get up for them. We'll see what they do. I want to see how they deal with those games versus how they deal with Uruguay, because as Bart said, yeah, combative is one way to put it with Uruguay.
Yes,
they are. They're feisty. You'd be surprised how many pockets, how many knives you can fit in a pocket when you play against Uruguay. They will get a little prickly to deal with. So,
well, some of their players don't even use knives in pockets; they just use their own damn teeth.
It's true. Although I don't know if his knees can physically do anything outside of like the Miami games, and even then, I still have my doubts as we cross the streams here. Yes. I still have my doubts that Luis makes it to the end of the season in a consistent manner in MLS, just because of the wear and tear and the travel. And dude, his knees are built by hopes and dreams at this point.
Yes. Bart, how much longer do we have you?
Well, I'm kind of paying attention to you, so we can continue a little bit longer.
Okay. All right. So we'll go top of the hour at the worst. So let's get into the VAR situations and do a little repping.
This was fun.
So there were,
Which one?
I was going to say, there were multiple instances here that we can discuss. I guess let's take it in a temporal sense and start with the Pulisic incident / no incident. So walk me through that for those that didn't see it on the WBD family of networks and your perception on what went down.
So I think when the foul was first called, it looked like it was outside the penalty area, which is fine. Referee blows the whistle after the 5th time that Pulisic had been fouled in that sequence. And that's fine. As soon as the replay shows, you go, wait a second. That looks like it could be in this side of the box. And, I'm a little surprised there wasn't a longer review for this because it did depend on where the initial contact from the Brazil player with Pulisic's foot was, which still looked like it could have been at least on the line of the penalty area, which in that case means it's a penalty kick. But for some reason, that wasn't sent to a full VAR process. Or maybe they did and they said, no, we're fine. But the Pulisic free kick that we ended up scoring on very well should have been, in my opinion, since review to at least check to make sure it was inside or outside the penalty area.
Right. And so they decide that it was outside and not just outside, but it was some distance in between that and the edge of the area.
Yeah. And that was the other thing is that he did give the distance very far from where it actually was anyway.
I'm going to go back a couple of fouls and say that this was the foul that I'm calling right here and have it then. Now, let's get into the Chris Richards card, no card, foul, no foul, waving everything off, players hanging around, and Brazilian players hanging around the middle of the center ref and going, bruh. Once again, walk us through this, and we'll take some time and figure out what in the ish happened here, because this one was one I had no blanking clue.
I got to be honest, and I even tried to go through Christine Uncle's explanation and everything, and she's also kind of confused because essentially Chris Richards was whistled to commit a foul, or judged to commit a foul. Whistle was blown, and at that point, it definitely wasn't dog so. I don't think that it was dog so. I think it's fair to review this for dog so, but there were other defenders clearly in the area, and this wasn't a case of a player necessarily like pulling someone down from behind. It was just a challenge that didn't go correctly. He was initially awarded a yellow card, which is fine. It seems like it's stopping a promising attack. VAR says, hey, come take a look at this. But at that case, you're only recommending a review if there is a potential dog so red card. So I don't understand where they're able to, I truly don't understand where they're able to review this and say, oh, there was no foul and there's no yellow card. Because this was not a penalty kick. This was not, it wasn't anything like that. This was just an open field foul that a yellow card was given. The dog show review is the only logical outcome. And to me, while I think the call is eventually given correctly on the field if Chris Richards didn't foul him and there shouldn't be any free kick or yellow card to Richards, this is not the purpose of what VAR should be used for. The only decision you can have here is red card for dog so or the call on the field stands. To be able to reverse it and say, oh, no foul and no yellow card, is I'm not sure where that protocol comes from in the VAR guidelines. I don't think it exists.
Okay, so looking back, Christina she was on her way to Europe as the game was going. Yeah. So people are lighting her up on the 280 character app going, did you see? And she's like, I'm in Europe. I'm geo-blocked. And so let's see, 11 hours ago. So it would have been 10 o'clock in the evening local time. So depending on where she is in Europe, she's suffering from jet lag and it's either 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. She goes, the original decision, and I'm trying to decipher her abbreviations here. Original decision, stopping a promising attack, yellow card.
Yes.
VAR recommends dog so red, parenthesis. If VAR has no foul, only a yellow card given, couldn't recommend it. Then the ref determines no foul, so he's able to overturn the original decision. And IFK. What is IFK in ref speak?
Indirect free kick.
Thank you. Indirect free kick because no contact. Wrong recommendation, right outcome.
Yeah, and I think that's what eventually the ref says, oh, well, there wasn't even a foul. I am not sure why he's able to reverse the decision completely. This is legitimately new to me when you're looking at the VAR process. It truly is, John. I'm not wholly mad at the outcome because, as Christina points out, like it's the right. What happened was he said, there's no foul, and we move on with it. But
you improperly used VAR to get the right decision.
Yeah. So what I think probably happens here, John, is, and this is no shade at the rest of our CONCACAF members, but our center referee is Honduran, and while he referees a lot of FIFA matches, does not use VAR on a regular basis.
True.
And I would imagine that the rest of the referee crew, I couldn't find the whole crew listed, and from last night tonight, I may have been celebrating a little bit.
Your AR is Walter Lopez, who is from Honduras, and Christian Ramirez, who is from Honduras. Your forward, Ryan Lopez from Guatemala. VAR, Oscar Macias Romo from Mexico, and your AVAR, Oscar Mejia Garcia, also from Mexico.
So the Mexican referees, the VAR, probably recommended a review because, hey, you need to check if this is dog so red or not. They're more familiar with VAR than Honduran and Guatemalan referees because their league uses it. Where I can't speak with confidence on the Honduran and Guatemalan leagues and how they, they look at it. But hey, again, he got it right. And Airborne, you're probably right. Once he goes to the monitor, he can look at it and review anything. But I'm still unsure why he's able to completely reverse his decision. But maybe that is how it works, because he looks at this and says, no, actually, there was nothing that happened. It's still weird to me. It still is weird to me. That's not something that I've seen or read with the VAR process. I'm sure now this is a learning opportunity for everyone involved. But I'm confused why, if the Mexican VAR is looking at this and sees that there's no foul, period, because you're reviewing this for dog so.
Yeah.
Why you're sending the referee down to the monitor to look at it regardless.
So basically, let me see if I can interpret this correctly. And Tom Russo says, for those that are just listening, saw somebody on the Bird app explaining it like this: one of 4 boxes must be checked in order to go to the monitor. But once at the monitor, the center can review anything if he or she sees something different. I think I got that right. So let me see if I've got this correct. So call is made. Center ref goes to VAR. The decision is then re-refereed by both the center ref. Well, VAR, I guess, encourages something. The center ref re-referees his own call through VAR and then goes back onto the field and wipes the whole thing off the books. Am I misinterpreting here?
I don't think you're misinterpreting. I think the problem is we're wondering why the decision was able to be made, right? And no, yellow cards are not reviewable. So you can't look at this just as a yellow card review, right? This has to be a dog so review. Now, to Airborne's point, and I think this could be the situation, is once that referee does go to the monitor, they can make any decision they feel is just. Except for, apparently a ball going into the goal that they had no angle to prove that it was in the goal. I still am confused why they got sent to a monitor for something that was clearly not dog so to begin with.
No. Yeah, well, and unless it was dog so and then it was re-refereed not to be dog so.
Right, but there's no reason to be re-refereeing here because, in my opinion, the VAR cannot institute a protocol, a process to review if there was even a foul or a yellow card. That definitely is not part of the process. Now, obviously, once the ref goes to the monitor, maybe he can do whatever he feels. But the fact that he was sent to the monitor for this to review dog show when there was no, like, I don't know why. I don't understand why he got to go to the monitor and make this decision to begin with, because it was weird for me. I understand reviewing it, means okay, but as a VAR, you should be able to look at this and go, I don't feel like this is a clear and obvious non-dog so, right? Because that's what we're looking for, is clear and obvious errors.
Yeah.
There's no clear and obvious error for the referee to have given only a yellow card for stopping a promising attack, because in my opinion, looking at this, it's very clear that there are defenders in the area, which is the number one thing when we're looking at dog so, those 4 Ds we talked about.
All right, so let's go. Before you go, let me go over the numbers that were given, as we always do, where we can sit here and yell at our friends at Soccer America for their grading system. Matt Turner got a 6 on the night. Joe Scally, and Joe Scally, who had an above-average night for Joe Scalliness in having to sit there and stop the Brazil attack up the left-hand side. Scally, and here's the notation. Scally too far upfield when Rodrigo capitalized on the attack. And this is from our friend Arlo Moore Bloom at Soccer America. Ill-fated boot struggled at times with the Real Madrid star, but helped the backline prevent a game winner, made some bright plays in transition moments by beating a player or two and finding a forward player in space, delivered the ball to Pulisic ahead of the free kick that gave USA the equalizer. So Scally a 6, Richards a 7, Tim Ream got an 8, and Jedi got a 4. I've rarely seen an 8 in this grading system.
Yeah, I understand why Tim Ream got an 8, because he was very helpful in keeping possession from the back. However, there were many times that I was very concerned when Brazilian players were running very quickly past him, and he was very unquickly running after them. And that is a continued issue. And there were a couple times where he assumed that someone was going to cover for him, but there was no one. And luckily for him, Matt Turner had a Matt Turner night where he had 11 saves, the most since any U.S. keeper has made since Tim Howard.
Yeah, brother.
Which, hey, look, whenever you look at the last time we didn't lose to Brazil back in '98, we had to have a spectacular performance by a goalkeeper in that one. And that's what it takes to beat top teams.
Midfield starters, Giorani got a 5, Yunus Musa a 7, Weston McKennie got a 6.
A little harsh on Gio. I thought he had some bad passes, but I think overall he was very good at helping us go from front to back, or back to front, I should say.
Then up top, we got another 8 from Christian Pulisic. Tim Weah got a 7, and Pepe got a 4.
Yeah, this was a tough game for Pepe, but I don't think he was uninfluential. I just think it was one of those games where it's going to be hard for any striker to truly make their mark, but this continues to be an issue for the U.S. men's national team. And the biggest question we have going into Copa America is how we're going to actually score goals when we have strikers who aren't scoring goals.
Yes. Forwards and subs, a lot of the subs got 5s. I think that Arlo just got tired at the time that this was done. I'll give him a 5. Johnny got a 5. Balogun got a 5. Tyler got a 5. Brendan Aronson got a 3, who says he's got unfinished. His brother says he has unfinished business at Leeds. Shaq Moore got an incomplete because of the number of minutes he was there. Yep, Matt Turner, 11 saves, most since Tim Howard in the 2014 World Cup. Next up, the Copa America opener against Bolivia at Jerry World on June 23rd.
I mean, now's the time where you have to. Good morning, Abby. You've got to start looking at how this team should be expected to perform at Copa America. And for me, the expectations are no different. You need to be making a semifinal. And if you don't, that is a failure. And I'm sorry to put that pressure on this team, but in 2016, with frickin' Giassi Zardes as a starter, you made a semifinal, okay? Everyone on this team is better than Giassi Zardes at his position even. You know, Tim Ream's a better winger than Giassi Zardes.
Woo!
So certainly has a better first touch. But this team should have pressure. And if you're not, I'm calling out a little bit the U.S. soccer media. If you're not putting pressure on this team to perform well and go deep in this tournament that you are hosting, what are the expectations then? Because this is the warm up for 2026. That's what this is. And in 2026, if your expectations aren't a quarterfinal or semifinal, then I don't think you're doing your job as a media person covering this team, in my opinion.
I mean, it's a home game. And if you
Right.
if you're not anticipating going far in a home game, then something ain't right with how you're wired.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not out here trying to be England expecting it to, us to win every tournament that's ever existed.
Well, because they're going to bring it home, Bart.
They're going to bring it home. But to your point, this is a home game, and if you're not finding ways to win your tournament games at home, to at least get to a comparable result of what you had the last time.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that I don't think holding this team to the expectation of the semifinal is being greedy.
No, I don't think that's a far expectation for this group. And the bracketology came out for the sites, and I believe if the U.S. finishes second in their group, Atlanta could end up with a third USMNT match in 2026 as well. So
that is for 2026, correct? Now, obviously, you would hope that with the 48-team World Cup, you're not finishing second in your group; you're finishing first.
True. Yeah.
No, Michael, having not a specific home, no, it does not harm us.
The U.S. fans better damn well travel. Let's put it that way. They better.
Where are you going to put that? If you put it in D.C., you still got outnumbered by Columbia fans. If you put it in Kansas City, well, then the fans of the other opposing team are still going to find a way to get there. Not having a home stadium does not harm the U.S. because, one, other countries don't have Spain doesn't necessarily have a dedicated home stadium. It hasn't harmed them at all. No, I understand, but no.
All right. So since we have cleared past the top of the hour with you, I know that you're going to turn into a pumpkin. So what's the latest here with the Soccer for USPod? What can we expect, sir?
Hopefully recording an episode tonight, and then that'll either come out Friday or Monday, depending on how quickly I can get it turned around, because I also have to play a soccer game tonight. So
there you go.
Be busy.
Well, once again, thanks for multitasking this morning. I didn't know if the real world intervened to a point to where you would be here either today or tomorrow, but I'm glad we were able to get you the day after the night of the U.S. and a draw. And I got to mention Preki this morning, so I was pretty happy with myself.
Always fun to talk about Preki. People forget about him as probably one of the more creative and fun players in the U.S. men's national team history.
You know it. All right, go back to work, sir, and go back to the real world. We'll catch up with you soon.
Hope to see some of y'all tomorrow at the opening party for Euro. So looking forward to that.
3 to 7, we'll be there, and we'll see you there, my friend.